Weird beer styles, the Swedish Julmust. And yes, I know, if you are from Sweden, you're probably about to write a nasty comment because this is not considered beer really in Sweden, and it's not. But wait a little bit. I will encourage you to wait to the end of the video and then write your nasty comment. I will explain it, and you will probably pick up 1 or 4 1/4 things about Julmust you didn't know. So here we go. The Swedish Julmust, weird beer styles. Let's just kick it. I'm Dr. Hans, this is Dr. Hans book. The weird voice, well, I have this like man-cold thing going on, but you know how it is. The show must go on. I know. I hate when YouTubers like do that mansplaining thing that you really don't need to know about. But I want to suck less than the next guy. So, yeah. You should not subscribe. There's much better channels about beer and homebrewing than mine, so go and subscribe to someone else's. Just a power tip. I have some examples here for you. You can try some out, and I have one that is actually beer, so this is gonna be really interesting, and we have some history about the Swedish Julmust. So here we have some Julmust, and I can see now that I don't have the most sold brand, which is Apotekarnes.
Apotekarnes Julmust, en godare jul sedan 1910.
What my sister would call Apotekarnes. This brand has been voted as the best once, at least some years, but this is a sugar-free version. Also, this is a sugar-free version, and this is a little bit fancy one with juniper berries. Then there are also varieties that are aged on barrels. I'm gonna get a little bit more into that. But this one is actually beer, and this from Belgium, and that sounds really weird because Julmust is a Swedish thing that has spread a little bit to our neighbor countries, and there has been some export even to the States. But even though this is brewed in Belgium, this is an Onipollo beer. So this is brewed by a Swedish brewer called Henok, which have made a lot of Willy Wonka beer, a really interesting beer. This one is a sour beer, and he called this inspired by the Swedish Julmust. Because the Swedish Julmust is not a beer. The Swedish Julmust has been around since 1910, so it has quite an history here in Sweden. In the beginning of the 1900 centuries, there were this soda maker called Robert Roberts, and he was a tolerant, is that correct word? Someone who doesn't drink any alcohol, and he had some church background, so did even his father. Robert Roberts wanted his son to get into the soda business also, so he sent him over to study chemistry in Germany.
Ein Prosit, ein Prosit. Der Gemütlichkeit. 1, 2, 3, super. Zicke, zacke, zicke, zacke. Zicke, zacke, zicke, zacke. Groß, super. Trink. Schmeckt gut, ja.
And of course, Germany is a real beer country. So when Harry, the son, came back to Sweden, he had some recipes, ideas for a non-alcoholic substitute to beer. So they started to make a soda which they called Christmas beer. Let's crank one open. So this was supposed to be a substitute for like porters and Christmas beers. This does have malt and hops in it. As you can see, we also have that darker beer look. How good head you get from a Julmust, it kind of depends. Got that traditional Swedish Julmust flavor to it. This Christmas beer substitute didn't get really popular until after the First World War. After the First World War, there were not only in Sweden a change in alcohol laws, because there were problems in some countries. I think we Swedes were up in drinking like 10-liter hard booze per year, and there were a lot of other countries also. So there were this growing fractions against alcohol, and we actually had a vote in Sweden in 1922, and that's 5 years after the women got the right to vote, because 1917 women got voting right here in Sweden. If it had been 5 years earlier, it would probably have make a difference, because we can measure that because they actually have different voting papers for men and women. The result was that we should ban alcohol in Sweden, but the government really didn't want to go that far, but they did massive changes to the alcohol restrictions and laws, and that changed the alcohol culture in Sweden. And the company Roberts, which made the alcohol-free Christmas beer, changed their name of the soda to Julmust. Jul is a Swedish word for Christmas, and must is must, and that's unfermented or like pre-fermentation pressed juices from fruit or berries. That's even weirder because this has nothing to do with fruit and berries, but it's called Julmust, and as this was to be a substitute for alcohol, like in beers, have skyrocketed from there, because the name Julmust was obviously more appealing to a larger group of people than the name Julöl. Jul, Christmas, öl, beer. Nowadays it wouldn't really be Christmas without the Julmust. It's so popular that all of the other soda drops by 50% at Christmas time, and we start drinking this in November, some people as early as in October. Even Coca-Cola couldn't keep it up. The interesting thing with Julmust is that people have tried to replicate this, but none has come close. So the company Roberts are still making it today, but they are making essence, and then they're selling that to the breweries. Around 98% of the Julmust come from the essence from Roberts. And even Coca-Cola company have made Julmust because they are dropping so much sales over the winter time, but they also bought the essence from Roberts. So the difference in the Swedish Julmust varieties, because we have a lot, is really not the base essence. It's like how much they dilute it, how much sugar or sweetener, like in this one they add. Do they add some extra spices, like we have the juniper in this one? Or the aging it on maybe bourbon barrels or not? Suggested by Roberts is really not age the finished drink on barrels, instead age the essence and then make your soda. This is not totally alcohol free, but it's considered alcohol free because it's below the 0.5% ABV. So the finished product may end up like 0.3%, so it's barely nothing. And this one, the Julmust Holiday Sour, is also 0.3% ABV. The Swedes don't only drink Julmust at Christmas, we also drink Julmust at Easter, but then we call it Påskmust, Easter must. It is the same beverage. It could taste different if they would have been like lagering or something for longer. I tried to find out how much Julmust we actually drink in Sweden, and it is a lot, but I got so much different numbers. 50% of the soda industry goes to Julmust. 80% of all the Julmust we drink at the winter time, but it's not that we drink less must at Easter than Christmas, but Easter we just celebrate for a short little window. We drink Julmust at winter time for a very long time, so that's really why. But you will not see any Swedish traditional Christmas dinner without the Swedish Julmust, and you will probably not see an Easter dinner either without the Easter must, Påskmust. Let's get this beer into a glass. Epic Christmas pour. It doesn't look like Julmust. It's not as dark as you see it. It's more a little bit muddy. Don't really smell like Julmust either. It tastes like we have in Sweden something we called sura kolanappar. That's the taste. So it tastes like sour cola and not like Julmust. Another traditional Swedish Christmas drink is the Julmumma, but that is not as popular as the Julmust. But if you haven't checked out the video I made about the Julmumma, why don't you go and check out that one? Cheers, and I see you in the next one. Då åkte Hans out. Another traditional, för helvete.